Hi everybody, welcome back to those who've been hanging with me for a while, and welcome to those who've just discovered my channel. I appreciate all of you. Okay, so this is a subject that many of you have been waiting patiently for me to get to. Let me take a sip. The Witch in the Medium. Witch in the Medium. Just kidding. Podcast. This is the podcast I'm on. In case those of you are just new, going, what is she talking about? The Witch in the Medium podcast, co-host with my friend and co-host Mystic Dylan. Okay. This requires a sip of coffee before I get started on this one. So we are going to talk about are demons real? Okay, so there is so much information out there on this, just like a lot of these subjects, but this is like one of those that, you know, people put a lot of crap about. Sorry, there's a lot of crap. Yes, I said it on this subject. Why? It sells, it's a draw, scare sells, being scary sells, you being scared out of your wits sells. Even if it's free, it sells. People just kind of like it, and it's, you know, nice and dramatic, and it works. So I'm going to break it down. Are demons real? I'm going to answer yes. Is it common? No. It is a very, 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 I just kind of yelled into the mic, rare occurrence, and I'm going to explain to you why. So have I had this experience? Yes, I have, and I am going to definitely share my story. I've actually shared it before on our podcast, The Witch in the Medium, and on Bigfoot Collectors Club, our friends who have had me on there and been very kind, and Dylan on there, have known for some time. But I've shared it on their podcast before when I've been a guest on there, and I'm going to share it with you today. So the thing is that with it, when it comes to demons, people have asked me, I've mentioned something called gremlins. I call them gremlins. And these are like trickster entities. These are entities that, you know, are literally not like the furry part of the gremlin, but when they eat after dark and get crazy gremlin, they are like this. They're not very powerful. They can't really do much to you. They can scare the bejesus out of you. They can scare you into this idea that, you know, stay away from anything, you know, paranormal, stay away from the spirit world. They're kind of like there to kind of almost like test you. And believe it or not, as much as there is dark and there that people kind of deem as negative, there is a positivity to the challenge of that side. I'm not saying there's a difference between evil and something that's coming from a dark place. Dark just means, to me, coming from a place that's kind of in the depths, that you kind of have to go into the depths of something and pull it up and face it. So I know a lot of you who are witches would probably call it, you know, facing your shadow side and everything. I'm not big on terms. As you might know, if you've been following me for some time, I'm kind of big on explanation and seeing things through kind of the core of what it is, an energy. And there is an energy that is like the warrior side in you, the side that has to kind of stand up, stand strong, and face things and not be afraid. And it's also the side of us and the world that we don't, you know, it's not so rosy and rainbows, and it's the challenge. It's challenging you. And those little gremlins are actually there to kind of see how you're going to handle it. I know that sounds crazy, but my first experience with those type of entities was with someone I was working with someone and reading for them and kind of helping them through things, and I saw these little gremlins around that person, and I said, oh, you kind of invite this, and they were like, yes. And once I saw them, and it's called unmasking, where you're just revealing and looking behind the mask and seeing what they really are. I saw that they were just like, looks like little troublemakers to kind of see how you're going to handle it. So it's kind of like, you know, if you're going to go into the spiritual realm, if you're going to dive deep into it, you got to kind of look at all sides. And that's why there's a problem when people are saying, you know, oh, I don't deal with that, I'm only in the light, there's nothing else I deal with, because that's just basically saying, you know, I live on this planet, but I only stay in my neighborhood and that is it, and or I only stay where I want to be. Am I saying that there isn't something real to things that want to create havoc? And I'm going to say there's a difference between evil to me. Evil to me is when something is trying to purposely do harm for no reason. It's not like testing you, it's not this type of thing, but it's like, I want to hurt this person and destroy this person, destroy what's happening for the sake of destroying it. That is, to me, pretty evil. But that's my explanation, and if you followed me, you would understand that I tend to tell people what I've come to learn from that other realm, and that's how I've learned everything, through the spirit realm and through entities that have taught me some lessons. So once you kind of see those little gremlins, how do you deal with them? You acknowledge them. Of course, you cleanse, and you tell them they're not allowed in your space, in your energy sphere, and you call in whatever you work with to get them out of your energy sphere. You know, but you got to kind of look at it and not come from a place of, you know, oh, this is like meaning everything that I'm doing is bad. The testers are kind of like, if you look at any kind of story that's metaphysical or magical, you always see the hero has to go through the test of like, how strong are you to be able to handle any kind of knowledge or any kind of magical knowledge? Are you able to handle the stuff that's not so pleasant all the time and face it, and face your own weaknesses and face your own strengths and things like that? And just kind of imagine that the spiritual realm is very similar. If you're going to open yourself up to things, you can't just pick and choose, because that's kind of sounding like you think you're better than everything. And there's always two sides to every story, right? And the side that kind of tests you through things is trying to say, listen, the pushback that this realm gives you, meaning these little gremlins and tricksters, are trying to say, can you face this and unmask it and see it? Like, I know this is going to sound so stupid, but it is the never ending story. If you ever see the hero, he has to go through those two statues. Although, if you ever look close at the statues, they are, and it's slipping my mind, they are, I should know, supposed to represent Egyptian goddesses. And but if you ever notice, it's a little busty on those statues, but the point is, he has to go through them, and he's being tested to see if he can, you know, if you ever hear in all these stories is like, do you have a good heart? Are you coming from a pure place? Is your intention good? And that is the other thing. So hold on, sorry, need coffee. So the other thing is, if you're gonna go into this realm and you're gonna open yourself up to this realm, it is kind of coming at you like, why are you using this? How are you using this for? Are you using this only for your own gain, your own good, the only thing for yourself because you want to be important, you want to be everyone to look up to you, you're coming from ego? Are you coming from a place of wanting money or power? And that is the job of these type of things that don't seem so pleasant and warm and fuzzy and cozy, because it's like good cop, bad cop, right? So it's kind of saying like, listen, if you're going to come into this realm, we got to know, you know, make sure and see what intentions are you having, what heart are you having, why are you coming into our realm and exploring and wanting to learn about these type of energies and magic. And so those ones that kind of seem scary, that people always seem scary, is kind of weeding out those who only are doing this because they want to like do magic, or they want to talk to the spirit world or whatnot for themselves only. Does that make sense? I hope. Okay, So now let's flash forward to bigger entities. These are like much bigger entities. Like this is the what we would call the demons that people ask about. Now I'm going to share my experience of what happened. I've seen things a couple of times, and I've been a medium and talking to the spirit world and dealing with that realm and all kind of energies. If you see other videos I have on here, interdimensional beings and all kinds of things. And I can tell you that I have rarely, very few times have seen something what people would deem as a demon. So I want people to be clear about that, because movies and everything else try to make seem like, okay, things are going to be attached. I get a lot of emails about I have some activity and something's happening and I must have a demon. And I'm like, listen, here's my rule. If you were to have something like this in your space, you would poop your pants twice. And I usually use a much stronger word, which I think I can say on here, shit. Your pants a few times and run out of your house. You wouldn't be going, I don't know, I'm not sure. I kind of feel like that could have been a demon. It's not gonna happen. You're not gonna say it that way. You're not gonna not be sure. You may get scared of these other things I'm talking about, these other type of entities I'm talking about, these little trickster entities and things like this, and it may freak you the hell out, for sure. But when it's something like I'm describing, you are going to, for no doubt, be shaken in your boots. More than that, you're going to want to vacate the space. Okay, so my story is that I was reading for some time, and I was starting to accept the idea that I had to be a warrior, because I do feel like that side that prepares you, this side that I'm talking about, the warrior side, the dark side of us that stands up and fights. I started to accept that, and because I was a person who just like, oh, I'm in the light, I'm in my bubble, and light, and I don't want to deal with those things. And still, until I started having little testers started showing me little tiny testers, and I started kind of understand, okay, I need to recognize this part if I'm going to be in this underworld and I'm going to be in this world. So I was reading, and I had got a client sent up to me, and this person literally, if you weren't a reader, if you never did anything, you would know something was horribly wrong. So he was paralyzed on one side. He was like dragging his whole body. I'm not even exaggerating. Like, it was not drool, but it was like almost like pus coming out of the side of his mouth. And honestly, I was wondering why nobody stopped this person from seeing me. He specifically asked for a medium. He didn't want a psychic or a tarot. He wanted a medium, because he wanted someone to see what was inside him. So he comes in and he closes the door. I close the door, I have him sit down, and he just starts kind of dropping his eyes and doing one of those. I want to show you guys a lot of this, but I'm almost kind of like, I don't want to freak people totally out watching this. And also the other thing about this type of stuff is the reason why you're going to see probably one video on this subject is because you really don't want to bring attention, and you don't want to give energy to these energies, if that makes sense. So I suggest, if you're watching this, just make sure you cleanse, and cleanse after or during, but don't be too freaked out. It's not like anything's going to happen to you. It's just you don't want to obsess on it, is what I'm saying. You don't want to put too much energy into it. So don't think if you're at work and you're watching this or wherever you are that like, oh no, I have to cleanse the space. Not that. It's just that you want to not carry it, is what I'm saying, and feed it like so much attention. So anyway, he started going like that, and he would drop, and he'd start kind of, he was out. And I could hear telepathically. Well, first of all, I said to him, there's something inside you. And he said, I know, can you get it out? And I heard that telepathically say, I dare you to try. And I could feel like, even when I closed that door, I was like feeling like, is this a good idea? Should I be closing this door right now? Like, I just felt really conscious. I mean, I kept looking at the doorknob like, okay, I need to be aware. Well, I work with Saint Michael, which is the archangel of protecting of the worlds. There are energies that protect between the worlds and keep these type of things from attacking. And I could feel that energy behind me. So what I did is also what's important to know is that with this person, this was a long time situation. Like I actually did go into his reading who he was, and I could see that when he was a child, this is where the wound happened, major wound. So I started bringing up, this happened when you were young. I can see this happening when you were a child. Some things happen around you. I did mention abuse, and he actually started mentioning that when he was a child, his parents were in some kind of type of energy or type of magic that they were evoking that was not positive around him. So this isn't to say that anyone who does magic this happens, but it was almost like their intention was coming from a very negative place. Not almost, he said that. And he talked about the abuse, and he talked about not knowing as much, like a lot of things. And as he would talk, he would then, as I would talk, he would just start doing this again, and space, just not being there, and the pus is coming down, and I'm just like, whoa. So I could feel energy. It almost felt like tentacles trying to reach towards me, and I would hear this being, and I saw it telepathically, and it did not look like anything you've seen in the movies. Nothing. It almost looked alien-like. It almost looked like a very negative alien-like, not like the positive ones that I've dealt with and talked to you about. But it did say to me, it kept saying, I dare you to try to take me out of him. And I said, no. Now, the other thing that started happening is that this guy didn't really, as soon as I started talking about the situation, he got upset and said, why are you talking about this? Like he'd snap out of it. Like, why are you talking about this? And then he says, are you going to get it out? I said, this isn't something I can really do, because I could feel he didn't really want. The only way to get something like that out is to actually go to the wound, all the wounds, because he had many wounds that were there and that had festered and festered and festered. And we're talking severe. Like I said, this is rare. I can't emphasize that enough, because I know I'm going to get stories and people saying their stories, but I want you to understand this wasn't sort of. He knew because he couldn't move. Half of his body was dragging, and he knew. So, I said to him, well, I need to kind of get to the wound of where this happened and then to understand. And he did not like that. He just wanted me to yank it out. And that's not how it works. You have to kind of see where things are festered to allow something like this. It's almost like working with those energies. Okay. So he, from that point on, I heard, I said, I can't do this for you. And I heard something say, it's time to get out, which my protector's like, you need to leave. So I exited him out. I took him to someone who claimed that they could cleanse this type of thing. And I said, listen, this is a real deal. If you want to go for it, go for it. That person actually ended up telling me that they, when they came out, I said, how did it go? And he said, well, I think I did something, but he was exhausted. And I said, what did he say to you? And he said he wouldn't talk. He would not talk at all. And I thought that was interesting, because I did get him to talk, but I knew I got him to talk because I talked to the thing that was kind of controlling him. Yeah. So I said, oh, well, he talked to me, and it's because I would acknowledge. Now, here's the thing. That thing that I'm talking about, when we were done, we not only cleansed ourselves, the space, everything, everyone felt it. It was like a place where people are very well versed at this type of thing. Very strong magical people, and they wanted to cleanse everything. They knew, they saw it was not good. So I did feel that energy kind of trying to connect to me, not like possess like people think, but just communicate. But the thing I got in that moment was, you need to know what you're dealing with. Meaning, if you're going to be in this realm, you need to acknowledge this power as well. Just as much as there's a Saint Michael, there's other type of energies as well. And you have to come from respect. And that is kind of how I had to approach it. Like, no, I'm not trying to pull you out, because I respect that you are more powerful. And this was way, way back when I first started reading, way, way back. So not first started reading, but when I would say I was probably 9 years into reading, and I'm going on 16 now. So it was like half into the time I've been reading, and I just kind of encountered, these type of things, and was just starting to acknowledge it and that kind of stuff. So I wasn't really prepared energetically how to deal with something like that. Okay, I've seen other things a couple of times, not so much powerful, but I will tell you that this is very rare. Do they exist? Yes, they do exist. But it is not in the way that people see them in the movies and in TV and things like that. It is very much almost like I said, almost like what we would call alien-like, because they're not human. And so when people ask me like, oh, is it a human? And is a spirit that turns evil into, no, they're not. Those are spirits that have issues and have anger and wants to, not anger, but they want to live in a darker place. And that's kind of rare too. I've actually don't come across a lot of those that spirits that don't want to grow and evolve and bring themselves into a more lighter, evolving place. So this is to say, this is very, very rare. So I just want people to be clear about that. I was looking at the time and I was like, is this even going? So I want to emphasize that. I want everyone to kind of look at this from a perspective of there's very difference between entities and things that are trying to kind of teach you, the little bad boys and girls, and that are spirits, and the little gremlins, and the story I just told you. If you feel like, you're still, there's things around you that you just don't like, and that's totally fine, and you don't want to deal with, and it's totally fine. Not everybody is doing the work I'm doing. This was my test. This was my test of, if you're going to deal in this realm, this is what you need to learn. So what I would say to you is go ahead and, cleanse your space and bring that energy into your space and get rid of anything. Don't really welcome things that are just little, that are bothering you. If you're uncomfortable, you're not ready for it, don't deal with it. It's not going to come if you're opening yourself up. It's not going to happen, like, oh, I did a Ouija board once or something. But I would say if you're tempting fate and you're kind of going, oh, I want these things and I think it's fun and I think it's funny, and you're not respecting it, not a good idea. Not a good idea. I've had people say like, oh, can you evoke, these things? And it's like ridiculous. No, they don't like being played with. They don't like being used as that way. They're not going to do things like that, play with you in that kind of way. However, if you want to peek behind the curtain and really see what's behind there, that's on you. Meaning if you're tempting and playing with it like a cat, that's on you. So I would say respect all of these energies. Having more coffee, and realize that things like this do exist, but also realize it's extremely, extremely rare. You're not going to be, doing something and one day this is going to happen. This was kind of my own personal journey of understanding, and that's exactly how I knew it was. It was basically like, you need to realize that you need to learn how to understand these. There's two worlds going on, and there is a spiritual warfare, and you need to learn how to be a warrior. So I just want to leave it at that. I did untangle my energy, of course, and cleanse and everything, and I learned a lot from that experience. Was it fun? No. But I want you guys to kind of get out of your mind all the traditional stuff you tend to see, and not everything that is mystical, paranormal, unusual is coming from an evil place. It's something most people are probably not going to encounter. So with that said, I hope that clarifies. I know I'm going to get a bunch of questions, and I love that. That's totally fine. I want to answer all your questions and comments and experiences. I am going to be doing another live Q&A hang every couple of videos. I'm going to do that so we can go over and people can ask questions about the videos I posted, and we can hang and chat and drink coffee or whatnot. You can find me here, of course, and subscribe and comment. I appreciate it. And on Instagram under Adele Levine, and my Witch in the Medium podcast I do with my co-host, Mystic Dylan. And also a new thing, I'm going to be reading at the Mystic Museum every week, starting September 11th on Wednesday. If you're in the area and you want to come and book a reading, if you go to my website adalavine.com, I have all ways to book readings in person or Skype, phone, etc. Thank you guys so much, because I've had people ask, so I'm throwing it out there. Follow yourself, follow no one, meaning like don't follow people like, saying this person has all the answers. Just listen to everybody and take in what makes sense to you and kind of mix it into your own cocktail of what works for you and what doesn't. Follow your intuition. We're all born with it. And thank you guys so much, and I'll see you soon.